All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honestly Bilal. I'm your host, Bilal Med, and I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Toledo, and this is Honestly Bilal, the show for the aspiring ophthalmologist where I sit down and talk with medical students who are interested in ophthalmology, residents who are trained in ophthalmology, and current ophthalmologists in the field today. My guest today is Dr. Malik Kahook. Dr. Kahook is the Professor of Ophthalmology at the University of Colorado. He resides as the Slater Family Endowed Chair in Ophthalmology. He is the Vice-Chair for Translational Research, the Chief of the Glaucoma Service, and the Co-Director for the Glaucoma Fellowship at the University of Colorado. Dr. Kahook has won awards such as the American Academy of Ophthalmology's Achievement Award, the Senior Achievement Award. He's been named under the 40 Under 40 Ophthalmology Power List. He has invented devices such as the Kahook Dual Blade, the Harmony intraocular lens system, and he has over 80 patents with 40 different companies. Dr. Kahook is also a consultant to the FDA for their ophthalmic device division. And Dr. Kahook, it's a complete honor to be with you today. I mean, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to be with you. So thank you for joining me, and I can't wait to pick your brain about all sorts of things.
Thanks for having me. We just took up the whole time that you have for the podcast.
I know, 20 minutes on now.
So I can just say bye and hang up and we're good to go. Thank you for that. Yeah.
There you go. But it's great to have you. And I have so many questions. And I just actually got done with the webinar at the University of Colorado. Can't wait to talk about the program you guys have there and everything that's going on out west. So we'll get right to it. So let's start with you a little bit. So why ophthalmology and why glaucoma? And what's your story there?
You know, my route to medical school and to ophthalmology was, I think, very non-traditional. I went through, so I'm from Ohio originally. We should have that in common since you're doing school there in Toledo. Mm-hmm. I went through the University of Akron and got a nursing degree to start with. And that came out of a discussion with a couple of my cousins who are in the medical field, that would be a nice thing to do to get acclimated to the medical field and learned a lot of the lingo. Ended up loving nursing. It was great. Met a lot of great people. Entered into medical school thinking that I was going to do something more general because of my nursing background, and ended up falling in love with surgery and really liking the aspect of working with my hands to fix things. And then I did a rotation in ophthalmology, and I think it's the same for a lot of medical students, where you're not really exposed to ophthalmology when you're in your first couple of years of med school, and really liked the aspect of doing cataract surgery and going from not happy to happy within 24 hours for the patients once you take the patch off and seeing their reaction. So that led to ophthalmology, and then glaucoma was a natural progression for me because you get to know your patients. It's kind of the internal medicine of ophthalmology. There's a lot of relationship building. It's a chronic disease. It's a lot more sort of getting to, you know, when you're a surgeon and you're doing a lot of surgery, a lot of times you become a little bit of a technician where you're just doing a lot of different surgeries, you know, day after day. With glaucoma, you really get to know your patients and walk them through their disease process, which really appealed to me. So, you know, kind of one thing led to another, like almost everything else that you did and that I'm doing. And I ended up here because I was supposed to. This is where I was supposed to be.
That's destiny. Yeah. So obviously in being there now, I got to ask you about Colorado. Again, the webinar they just put up this morning was really fantastic. I mean, such a great program in terms of, you know, the ability of outreach opportunities. You know, you have a place that's building a new outpatient center. There's opportunities with growing a number of residents. You know, you're up to 6 residents. So that's, and it's a program that you're actively involved with in many ways. So talk about the program. What are people at the University of Colorado looking for in applicants, especially in a year where it's a virtual process and there's no interview. So what is something that you look for or the faculty look for in terms of when you look at people sitting down and reviewing applications?
Yeah, we've been pretty consistent with what we're looking for. I'll tell you a little bit about the program from my perspective. I did residency here. So I left Ohio, came over here for my training after doing my transitional year in Canton, Ohio. And the reason that I wanted to come here was the feeling that I had with the faculty when I came here for the interview. It was a much smaller program when I did residency here. So I started residency here in 2002. And it was a very small 6 to 10 faculty members, but you could tell that everybody really liked being here, which is really important. They liked their job and they liked teaching, which is extremely important. And the one thing that I was sure of when I chose to come here was that I was going to be a good ophthalmologist by the time I was done. I didn't necessarily need to do fellowship. I was going to be able to do all kinds of surgeries. I could go in the middle of nowhere, be the only ophthalmologist, and be able to do whatever is needed. But also, if I wanted to do a fellowship, that there were enough people here with reputations that could help get my foot in the door and, get me into a good fellowship. And that has only improved since I came back here. I ended up going to Pittsburgh to do fellowship, came back here to join the faculty. And I can tell you, if you're a med student looking for a place where you're going to do a lot of surgery, see a lot of patients, be very busy, be around people that like what they're doing, and also not mind having, dinner occasionally with your attending. So people that you actually like hanging out with. I think we have that. I don't think we have a single malignant person here. I think most people actually like smile during work.
Wow.
And that's really the bread and butter of what you want out of a residency. You want something that's, you want a program that's very focused on the clinical and surgical care, but then you start looking at some of the other things that we've been building over the last, 15 years or so. You want research. You don't necessarily have to be, you don't have to make research your world in order to come here. But if you want to do clinical or basic research, we have that capacity. Our head of research is Mark Petrash, who came here from WashU a while ago now, and he built this program in basic research into a powerhouse. So we have that, which is something we didn't have when I was doing residency. That's very different now. And then in addition to that, the global health stuff that we do, the capacity to travel and do surgery. And then we have a big focus on translational research here. So it's not just the basic stuff and maybe clinical research with companies. We also do a lot of translational research. We have 4 faculty members in our department have received the Inventor of the Year award on campus, the entire campus, all specialties, which is unusual for ophthalmology. So if you're interested in med devices, technology, learning how to get something from concept to commercialization, that's something that we have a lot of experience with. A lot of different facets that we offer that are different. And, I'm glad I came here, and I think we have the best residency program in the country. Yeah. I'm sure others will dispute that. I know you put up Tom Oding's interview this morning that I saw, and he might tell you it's Iowa, but he's wrong. He's wrong.
This is where I have to be objective and just stay quiet because I can't say anything anymore. I'm just a middleman here, so that's.
Yeah, but I saw you smile. It's true. Yeah.
Look, you're putting me into a spot now. Look,
right. That's right. Yeah, that was all for Tom's sake. So hopefully he watches this.
Yeah, no, hopefully. And I think what's really cool is the opportunity for you all to be so genuine and talk about the program so candidly. And I think that really resonates with just a listener to be like, okay, this person's obviously saying so much that is hitting different barrels. So yeah, it really sounds like a great program and sounds like a really important thing to, I think a lot of applicants, a lot of us out there is trying to determine that collegiality and the fit and the knowing that, if I can ask a question and it's okay. And my preceptor is not going to think of me as or you asked that this is not the time to play, that there's approachability at different times.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely the case here.
Sure. Absolutely. That sounds awesome. So in terms of, and I forgot to list out of all your achievements, I forgot to also mention you were also the Innovator of the Year at University of Colorado. So forgive me for that too. But
no worries. Yeah.
So, you mentioned a lot of the aspects of being at the university and teaching, and you even mentioned innovation a little bit. So I have to ask you about the Kahook Dual Blade and how that came about. Let's talk about the origin story of that concept and how, and actually, just for medical students out there. So if any of us have ideas, and I think a lot of us have ideas, and maybe we're in the early stages of our career where we don't know how to execute ideas maybe.
Yeah.
What does it take to be a builder, but then also be the builder and the seller is something I've heard from another podcast I really like, is that idea of being both. So talk about that.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, I had not heard that, at least not put in that way. One of the things that brought me back here, so as I said, I'm originally from Ohio. After fellowship in Pittsburgh, my plan was to go back to Ohio, start a practice, and just kind of go along that way. My wife's from Cleveland. It would have been perfect. She's also in medicine. So that was the plan. But halfway through fellowship, I got a call from our current chair, his name's Naresh Mandava. He's a retina specialist, and he was one of my attendings during residency. And he said, hey, I need you to come back and join the Glaucoma Service. And I was kind of, I wasn't sure. Pittsburgh was recruiting me at that time. And he's like, you know what, let me just talk to your wife because you don't really matter. So, so he talked to her. She got off the phone. She's like, yeah, we're moving back to Colorado. I'm like, okay, great. So we're doing that. But part of me moving back was he allowed me to make innovation part of what I do. So he gave me startup funding to start a device lab.
Mm-hmm.
got to know several companies, did their early device work, and then any return on that investment that came in, we would put it back into my own devices. So the dual blade device actually came out of an imaging project that I was doing. I needed to harvest trabecular meshwork in order to image it with some of my colleagues. We couldn't get a good strip of trabecular meshwork because it's kind of like wet tissue paper.
Sure.
And so I came up with this device to do that. And while I was doing that, I was thinking, this would be a really good surgical device to use.
Right.
So I teamed up with New World Medical, a prominent company in ophthalmology. They've been around since the early 1990s. They make one of the premier devices called the Ahmed glaucoma valve that we use in glaucoma surgery, and teamed up with them to launch it. So that was a device, not a company, right? So you have to distinguish between what's a device and what's a company. That was perfect to partner with New World and to get that launched in late 2015. And it's certainly, the fastest growing glaucoma device on the market, and it's doing really well, treated, lots of patients around the world. They also have something that really appealed to me, which is they'll give out free devices to any indigent patient that can't afford surgery. And they give out thousands of devices globally for mission work and things like that to Orbis, the Flying Eye Hospital and others. Along the way, we've also had the ability to start companies. So not just license a product, but start companies that then spin off campus where we get funding from venture capital. We create teams around the devices, and we go through the research and development process to get it into clinic, and then get it through approval, and then get it onto the market. We've been lucky with that. You mentioned the Harmony Lens. That was a company called Claire Vista that spun out of the university, and that was acquired by Alcon in 2017. So going through from concept all the way through development, clinical trials, and then acquisition from one of the major strategics, that's the best kind of schooling you can get in innovation. I learned so much. There's so much that they don't teach us in medical school. Certainly not something that can be conveyed entirely in a short conversation like this, but what I always say, I always like to say this out loud, find me on the internet, email me if you have questions. That just happened yesterday. Actually, it was somebody from the East Coast who emailed me, said, "Hey, I'd like to do what you do. How do I do it?"
Yeah.
And then have that conversation. I'm open to it. So to anybody watching or listening to this, certainly find me, email me. I'm at the university. It's easy to find me. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will say that even when I approached you via Twitter and asked you if you do this interview, you were right on it. You said, sure, absolutely. And it was really nice. So I think being approachable sometimes really says a lot about, the collaborative nature of people who do a lot of things in their work and outside their work. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, that says something about you too, though. Let me say that. So when somebody is bold enough to just do it, to just say, you know what, I'm not going to just think about doing this podcast. I'm actually going to do it. And, hey, I saw this guy named Malik on Twitter. I'm just going to, send him a DM and say, do you want to do it? I think that should be rewarded, right? Because most people are like, you know what, I'll do it next week. And you know what, I'm just going to go watch Netflix for a few hours.
Oh, yeah, no, I still do that too. Don't get me wrong.
Right. So do I, but I'm actually sitting, I'll show you. Can I show you this?
Yeah, please do.
So,
see it.
So I'm watching Shark Week.
Oh, see, there you go. You got to balance life. You can't do it all the time.
Right. It's for me, it's been all about Shark Week. And, as I'm talking to you, I'm actually watching some great whites on TV. So
yeah, I wish I had that double track mind. I wish I could. It sounds awesome though. But yeah, I agree with you. I think sometimes there has to be a little bit, I think anytime in life you have a passion for something, the passion, sometimes it's okay. I was talking to my dad last night about this, but sometimes it's okay to have a little bit of a healthy obsession with something if you really want to go for it. Yeah. And maybe that's one way to put it, but maybe I consider myself a little healthily obsessed with trying to do this and just make it something. So you've been inspiration for so many. So just trying to carry that forward and see what else happens for other people down the road, because there's gonna be more people who may need this platform to talk about their own stories. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I want to ask you one last question here about, when your process. I mean, it's one thing to, come up with these ideas and to collaborate and bring them to fruition. But let's start at the earlier stage. So what environment are you usually in when you're like, I have an idea? Or what does it usually take for you to be like, wait, I thought of something? Are you driving? Or are you just talking with people? Or is it music? What really brings your ideas to fruition?
So it's a great question. So one of the former chairs from Duke is Dave Epstein, and I know a lot of the medical students that might be listening to this are probably don't know the name. He passed away a few years ago. One of the giants in glaucoma. He mentored my mentor Joel Schumann. So I did fellowship with Joel Schumann, and Joel trained under Dr. Epstein. And Dr. Epstein always used to say that the biggest lab for clinicians is their clinic. Right? So you go into clinic and you see exactly what the unmet need is, or you're in the operating room, you're doing surgery. And in the middle of surgery, you say, you know what, why don't we have this thing?
Sure.
Or why do we do it this way? Why can't we do it this way? And I think that's one of the huge valuable things that we have as clinicians, right? You can't get that. We have awesome engineers who can do things that I can never dream of. But the one thing that we have is we understand the human body, we understand how to treat patients, and we get to see the effect of what we do on a daily basis. Sure. So I would say 99% of my ideas come from being in clinic, being in surgery. For the past few years, I've traveled a lot for surgery. I've done more mission work and more of our clinical trials, surgical trials outside. Awesome. And I get to interact with different minds, different clinicians, who have a different mind frame in their practice. I get a lot from that. So that's where the innovation comes from. I'm doing something and I say, okay, I could use this. And then I talk to my colleagues, I'll say, hey, what do you think of this? And what if I did it this way? Would it be appealing to you? And that's really the best test of whether it's something you should throw away or something you should pursue. Yeah. And that's kind of what I do.
Cool. And I'm sure sometimes, things don't always work out. I'm sure that you've had ideas that just definitely,
Yeah, all my stuff works. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay,
every single one.
That's just me then. I'll turn that part out. But yeah, that's fair. So that's good though. I think you could have the open mind to discussing with people, whether they're local or abroad or, wherever. So hopefully we take that forward, especially in a time like this where these kind of conversations from abroad and so across the world are happening a lot more. So Dr. Kahook,
absolutely.
Want to thank you so much for joining me. I feel like within a short convo, I learned so much about you, and hopefully we can carry these lessons, forward for anybody who's interested in innovating or just interested in glaucoma or interested in Colorado. So you're welcome back anytime. And how about you give people where to find you on social media, maybe your Twitter handle or whatsoever?
Yeah, it's just my name. So at Malik Kahook, Malik, and then Kahook, Kahook. You can also email me. I'll freely tell you my email because I get a ton of emails from people, and I always love that exchange. It's just my name, malik.kahook@cuanschutz.edu. So you can find Anschutz online, and then just cuanschutz.edu with my name. Email me with questions, anything that comes up. You should do the same thing as you're going through the process, every stage. If you want any help along the way, just email me, and you know how to find me on Twitter.
I do.
And I'll put it out there for everybody. I haven't been so far removed from, what you guys are going through that, I forgot about it. I remember, I know that it helps to just have a couple of words. Yeah. So I can help. And to everybody out there, check out the University of Colorado. We have the best training program in the country. Tell Tom I said that.
I will try. Yeah, I'll have to be tagged in this post now. So that's
right.
Thank you, Doctor, so much for joining me, and looking forward to hopefully seeing you down the road someplace else.
All right. Have a good weekend. Thanks for having me.